Well, hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It was only 2 weeks ago that we were last on air for Thailand Super Series action, as all of the lower-end classes went back to Chang for their round number 3 of 2024. They now have one round to finish off the season, all the way off in December. But for your GT3, GTM, GT4 and GTC categories, this year marks round number 4 for these guys, and races 6, which was postponed from the previous round, has been run. Results are in as of yesterday, and then races 7 and 8 today. But before we get there, it's going to be time for qualifying. GTC racing action will be up first, qualifying a 20-minute session for them, and then we'll be into your GT3, GTM, GT4 qualifying before we get into racing much later on today. It's time for Thailand Super Series. It's been a while between drinks for these guys, but Sepang last time out, Dan, and we're back yet again to what is one of my favorite tracks to jump in and do laps on online.
Good morning, Scott. Well, afternoon for us here in Australia these days, and thank you for the introduction there. I mean, got to see some great racing last time out at Sepang, even if it is only just the one day, which, as you said, they have made up for yesterday off air for our GT3, GTM and GT4 cars, now bringing the GTC action for some sprint racing in and amongst the 60-minute racing that we'll get for the those other GT categories here this weekend. And it was a great track to see the racing at last time out, just 4 weeks ago. Which is kind of crazy to think about. We've been in this sort of rapid fire phase of the Thailand Super Series Championship for 2024. Getting ready to do some more qualifying runs, starting with the GTC category here this weekend for their 5th and 6th races of the weekend to kick things off for us.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to keep our eyes on that. And that was a little bit of the coverage, a little bit of the highlights that's sort of coming through as it all happens thus far this weekend. The big thing to note is that the expansion back a few extra cars. We've actually got Alabama Motorsport over in attendance this weekend in your GT3 racing action. They've brought an Aston Martin Vantage GT3. Alabama will actually be behind the wheel for that one as well. So it'd be good to see them coming over and partaking as a part of the series. The big thing that I sort of note and I start to take a little bit more awareness of as we've been on this series a little bit longer, Chang's starting to see more racing action in terms of a lot of different series from right around Asia. And what that's doing is it's actually inviting more guys to come along and get involved within the Thailand Super Series just to get more racing laps from the Chang International Circuit. And what we've seen as a result is just the expansion of this GT3 category. What started off as about 6 cars when we first joined the series is now out to 10, and it just continues to grow.
I mean, it does come and go a little bit from time to time with the numbers, but the fact that we've got ourselves a new absolute racing entry here this weekend in the Audi R8 Evo GT3, and critically, as you said, the Aston Martin Vantage GT3 Evo from Alabama Motorsport as the second new car this weekend, which is going to be really cool to see. So the fact of the matter is we've got 11 GT3 cars across Pro-Am and Am subdivisions to keep an eye out on. So that will be fascinating to watch there as well. And then we still have ourselves our GTM field, which, as far as I've seen on the entry list, hasn't changed since we last checked in with them, and the same for the GT4s. But that in turn means that we've got ourselves some pretty competitive and interesting looking fields, and of course the GTC cars that are here this weekend too, to add something a little different into the mix.
Yeah, and like I said, they'll be the first guys to actually get out on track, and pleasure to have them back as a part of the coverage here this weekend as well. The surrounds of the Malaysian circuit in terms of the racing action that's actually been on track here this weekend. We're seeing some chatter about it over in YouTube land as well. Formula 4 Australia's here and in contention this weekend. They've just had their qualifying session just completed. There was rain in the area this morning. The track was declared wet for one of the first sessions here this morning, which is, changed things up just a little bit. But we're going to be underway here with GTC qualifying. From about now, the pit lane basically due to open, and you can see the cars starting to roll out towards the tail end of the pit lane. So might just do a little bit of a flick through our entry list for GTC to give everyone at home a bit of a rundown on who we've got available to us. Chem Yudolmaz is going to be in one of the Ford Mustang Trans M V8 cars. Manak Kulapona in the 37 entry, Toyota Supra BAR. The Toyota Supra 3S driven by Akrapong. Manuel Caceres is also going to be in a Lamborghini Gallardo Super Trofeo from 2010, so phenomenal to see that car still in attendance. The track map now up and on the screen, the 15 turns that make up the Sepang layout, 2 big straights to open the lap and finish the lap effectively at 5.5 kilometers and a clockwise direction. Overtaking spots in a number of the corners. The run down to turn number 1, one of the best ones, get down the inside, but you can get crisscrossed back. All the way down to turn number 9 makes for great overtaking opportunity, uphill run down through into turn 9. And monitoring, of course, track limits in the back half of the lap is always a really, really big aspect of it. Like we were saying, the Super Trofeo for Manuel Caceres in the 50 entry. Damian Hamilton finished a phenomenal podium, so he's been improving as the series has gone on. Also in the Ford Mustang Trans Am. And Manuel Rafael Caceres is going to be in the Nissan GTR, which is a very, very beautiful car. Unfortunately, he's had a few issues with that car back at Chang earlier in the year whilst he was running in podium contention. But this is one of the categories, Trans Ams versus other just GT cars. And there is that Nissan GTR R35 on screen right now, alongside of Damian Hamilton's Mustang Trans Am.
Yeah, indeed. It is a fascinating category to watch along with, because we get these mix of cars that weren't designed to race with each other, but have been able to work fairly well against each other here in the Thailand Super Series. For the most part, the Trans Ams do generally seem to have it's the 2 Trans Ams, usually versus 2 Toyota Supras. Now, my entry list says we should have the 2 Toyota Gazoo Racing Thailand Supras, the 37 of Manat Kulapalanot and the 38 of Akarapong, both out and racing this weekend, but timing says only the 38 is out on the circuit. In fact, only one of them is registered on the timing screens entirely. So hopefully that doesn't mean there's been an issue for the 37 since this weekend got on the way and they arrived at the circuit yesterday or Thursday with practice sessions, because that'd be a shame to lose a car from this field. But also critical to note here, looks like the track is dry from what we're seeing here at the trackside cameras, Scott, whilst drivers are out on their out laps here. But according to timing and scoring, and a little shot of it in the background when we got our first shots near the pit complex, the track has officially been declared wet by the officials at the circuit so far. So be curious to see if that means there's any bits of moisture still on the circuit somewhere we haven't seen yet, or if it means there's possibly a risk that the rain will arrive during the session. That would be something there.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I think sort of with the way the weather is, and I mean, this is just general for the Sepang area as well, is that weather swings around quite a lot. So, anything can and will happen when we head to Malaysia. Like you said, only the 5 cars, unfortunately, in this session as it currently stands. It'll just be the one qualifying session for GTC this weekend, and potentially race number 2 on Sunday is going to be carrying on from your race results from the Saturday. But don't forget, after this, we will also have your 2 qualifying sessions for your other GT categories that are in here this weekend. And I'm really keen to see the multi-class racing aspect, whether or not that's something that the series looks to expand upon the next time we head back out to Chang as well, because I think GT3 racing, when you combine it with a little bit of GT4 and a little bit more multi-class, it adds something special to it, and unique to the 2 Sepang rounds from this year. But it's something that, hey, look, they'll have a look at. They'll see, hey, is it working? Is it working for us? Is it working for our series? And potentially continue it on as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. It's one of the things that's sort of unique to the Sepang weekend, because we are here as part of the Malaysia Championship Series with other broadcasts, or other categories, I should say, pardon me, here this weekend. So, yeah, it's something we don't normally see at Chang or at Bang Seng, of course, where we usually see, GT M and GT4 share the track. That is not different, but GTC, they are racing by themselves, that's no issue. But GT3s, they usually get the track to themselves is the main thing. So they're going to have traffic to contend with once again in the races. And, qualifying today as well, to be clear, as well as the races later on this afternoon. It looks like one of our first qualifying times coming through. Indeed it is for Akarapong Akin Irot, 2:17.556, your first flying lap on the board here for the number 38 Toyota Gazoo Racing Thailand entry. And really cool to get some ambient audio there, trackside, which you can hear the sound of that Supra as it came down, or came around the lap And now listening in to the Nissan GTR R35 here, which, pardon me, Scott, is the 95, I think it is, of Manuel Rafael Caceres, if I can read that number right and remember it all correctly.
That's correct, yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant sounding car, though. Oh, listen to that. I could listen to that. You know what? I'm going to set myself up down there. It's coming off of turn 14, I think. Just listen to that all weekend long as it goes through the gears. Brilliant sounding race car. 14 minutes remaining on the session. Still the one valid lap time. So I think we're having a few issues at the moment, potentially with lap times being deleted due to track limits, which is always part of the deal when you come to GP racing circuits. But at the moment, the track's still improving as it currently stands. Caceres is going to go for a 2:35. We'll get a valid time on the board on the run down to turn number 1. Brilliant. I love the way that it dips down between 1 and 2. Such a complex technical. You've got to pull the car up. The correct line into turn number 1 is not to hold the outside all the way in. You actually want to start tipping in a little bit earlier than that so you can get yourself all the way down to the apex at turn 1. And then you've got to bring it back to the left for turn number 2. And for those of you who weren't here last year as a part of the Sepang coverage weekend when the series came in for just 1 round last year, which has been expanded to the 2 for this year. Last year was a part of the Porsche Cup Asia, I believe, weekend. That was phenomenal, just sort of be a part of that event. But this year, 2 separate dates that they've been brought back for, as it was a success. There was contact on lap number 1 of the GT3 race, which basically eliminated Marcus Winkelhock. Got some contact with the only Porsche that was in operation for that weekend, and that basically ended the Porsche's weekend. So it's about cold tires and getting them in, bringing them in nice and gently, and looking after them as well, because it's just such a long, loaded lap around Sepang as well.
Oh, yeah. That will be something that's important to keep an eye on. Actually, yeah, where the drivers end up in a position where, they overdrive the car and the tires start dropping away from them. Will be one to watch, especially if it stays dry and they can start building pace and pushing limits further here. Continue to focus on Manuel Rafael Caceres and see what he can do here, as he currently has that second fastest time in the session so far. And can you get a little closer, perhaps, to a car in the number 38 Tour de Gazoo Racing Thailand Supra, who has had a time deleted for exceeding track limits. We don't know where exactly, unfortunately. But we'll keep an eye on that in due course if we can. As apologies there for the technical issues here. Whilst we've got the feed, start looking here at Manuel Rafael Caceres. We'll hopefully be back with footage from qualifying in a second. But according to timing and scoring, he has come across the line, Scott, and improved to a 2-minute 22.316. So found a couple of seconds there on that current lap.
Yep, so an improvement as well. We'll keep our eyes on the Super Trofeo now as well. Number 50 machine of Manuel Caceres. Just came to the start-finish line to put down a 2:33.159. Still some pace to find with this car as well. Damien Hamilton's still yet to set a valid lap time. And I'm seeing him down at about the turn 9 through 11 area at the moment. So we should be seeing a valid representative lap time from the 88 car coming through in just a few moments. Indeed, I'm seeing sector times from him now. So it was a phenomenal battle as well in this category last year between the GT4s and the Trans Ams, because it was just phenomenal. Remember, Robotham got to the lead very, very early on and then had to defend, but the McLaren GT4 was incredibly quick in a straight line last year, was able to just about match and then apply pressure towards the back end of the 12-lap races, which created phenomenal racing action. It was probably one of the battles to watch across the course of the weekend. The GT4 Championship this year as well has been expanded. We've got a number of manufacturers in those categories as well. The reminder, we've got the Toyota Supras, a couple of Porsche Caymans, Mercedes-Benz, and the Aston Martin as well. So You know, there's a lot of cars, and the series itself is just slowly expanding, and we've seen so many different race winners in that one. The 2W Zoomies cars have been incredibly impressive out of the GT4 category as well, which I can't wait to see them on track yet again. And then, of course, another emerging story out of the weekend as well is that for so many of the drivers that are a part of the series as well, this is actually their home race. There are 10 Malaysian drivers as a part of Thailand Super Series racing action this weekend. So an opportunity for them to represent on home soil, which is just a huge opportunity that I'm sure they won't be passing up.
I mean, yeah, that will be good to watch. It won't be here in GTC as our drivers in this category. Well, we have a Karapong racing under a Thai license and is listed as from Thailand. We've got Damien Hamilton here, who is natively from Australia, but racing under a Thai license as well. As we'll check back in him a little bit, as Manasa Manuel Caceres, one of our drivers from the Philippines, looking to improve on a 233.1, and the answer will not be an improvement on this current lap. So hopefully still building up a little bit there in the Lamborghini Gallardo Super Trofeo here. But I guess it's also a case of this is a special car in many respects. Like, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you get where you overshoot that car and put that in trouble. So we'll see if he builds up in due course. As it looks like they go for the 38 of Karapong. Going to bring it back to the pit lane here with about 3 seconds or 3.2 seconds advantage on the timing screen at this time. Come back into the pits.
It's nice and chilled out. That might just be the end of the session for Karapong. And I mean, at the moment, he was 4 seconds faster, and I believe Kulupanot's we might even see an improvement from a number of drivers here in the final sectors of their lap times as well. I believe that's Damien Hamilton's just going to shoot through the back end of that shot as he improves on his lap time, runs down to a 2:18.903 there. They've shut that car down. So qualifying session now done for Akrapong. 2:16.887 sets the pole position time thus far. 2-second margin back to Damien Hamilton. Hamilton will improve ahead of Manuel Rafael Caceres. Interesting to note as well, Kulapulanot is still on the timings for the weekend. So the 37 car in attendance, but not out in this session. We might see that car later on today, unless they've had issues that they can't resolve. Potentially issues that they couldn't resolve by time for qualifying this morning. And that's Damien Hamilton as he runs down through turn 5, 6, 7 at the moment.
Crucially, Scott, he's found some pace on his second flying lap. 2:18.9 has closed up Karapong's advantage to just over 2 seconds. In fact, there we go. Timing actually will update for us to close things up a little bit. Also noting that Chemya Dulmaz on timing and scoring, but hasn't done a lap in this session so far. So it might be a case of only 4 drivers going to set qualifying times out of our expected 6-car grid for TSS Supercar GTC. We're curious to see here how things go, because I also noted that I could have sworn I saw a purple sector for Manuel Rafael Caceres on his last time through Sector 1. So that Nissan GTR R35, when he lines it up right, got some proper pace through the first part of the circuit. As you can hear and see from Damien Hamilton, he's definitely not pushing on this lap. With 5.5 minutes to go, see if he goes back around again, as Karapong will be heading back out to the track. So not done yet in qualifying here, it would seem, for year number 38, as Hamilton rounds turn 14 and heading past the alternate pit complex, which they used last time they were here. Well, pardon me, the GT3 GTM and GT4 cars used last time they were here, Scott. But this weekend they have been able to be put into the main pit complex on the start-finish straight.
Yep. So this will be an opportunity for Damien Hamilton. He's cooled those tyres off, and he'll have another go. No, that'll be it for the session, unfortunately. Just getting an update through from race control as well. Lap number 2 for Karapong has been deleted for exceeding track limits. But what I'm looking at the moment is that his fastest lap actually came on lap 3, so I think he's going to be okay with that one. So that just would have been one of the earlier lap times. Either way, that set him up really nicely. Still at the front end of the grid. And keeping an eye on the Nissan as well, which is still out there and circulating. I believe is in Sector 4 as it currently stands. It was very, very quick through Sector 2. Or reasonably quick in Sector 2. So there's an opportunity for him to potentially go quicker. The tyres might have started to go off, unfortunately, on the Nissan. But yeah, that's him coming through the start-finish line, and that's going to be not an improvement, it looks like. No, that's the run of the final corner, so this will be setting up to start another lap, or potentially an in-lap. Yeah, that's an in-lap. So it'll be qualifying over.
Yeah, there's one final run in it here, but that would require a pretty quick turnaround, so yeah, would appear that might be done. As you can hear the background screams of the Lamborghini of Manassa Manuel Caceres, which is pretty cool. So you just see where the number 50 is, I believe, coming up towards the final turn or so is the answer. It might be coming past down the start-finish straight as pick them up in the background here. So I have to see, yeah, so with Damon Hamilton in the pits currently, whether he comes back out for one final run and whether this Nissan GTR R35 can do an additional run, we'll have to see. But yeah, time running out to be able to turn the cars around and get a decent warm-up lap and then one flyer in. For Manassa Manuel Caceres, he will continue on in the Lamborghini Gallardo Super Trofeo. So chance to do another 2 flying laps here if the tyres have it in them. Can he improve on a 2-minute 32.7? We'll have to see.
Perhaps there's some work to do for the number 50 entry. Beautiful sounding car too. The Gallardos. Just that different body shape. They always felt to me like they were a little bit more stacked up. I mean, they feel like a shorter Huracan. And again, a Carapong still out there circulating at this point in time. Sector 1 time representative. So there's a potential for an improvement on this lap as it currently stands. I wonder whether or not the qualifying might be 2 laps. So your fastest lap sets the grid for race number 1, potentially second lap. Second fastest lap might set the grid for race number 2. So that might be the reason they've put this car back out, because if they've had their lap times deleted, there may not be a lap time for them. And that would be the reason they've sent him back out. That would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed we'll have that information for us here in commentary, as well as everyone watching us on the Thailand Super Series socials. So be able to keep that up to speed as we get through the weekend here. So it also makes sense, yeah, if I guess even just maybe if there's maybe something better in the car, might be handy. Although at this stage, I'm not seeing any personal bests, or given that a Carapong is top of the timesheets, no purple sectors at this time either. So this might just be a lap that'll be settle in close enough, good enough, because coming up to the last turn now, just over 2 minutes on the clock for the lap. If this is in the 2-minute 17s, maybe even a low 2:18, that's still going to be better than Damien Hamilton's time for second place at this stage. So there's a bit of margin here to work with, and one more flying lap opportunity as well to boot. Cross the line, it will be a 2:17.0. So there you go. Okay, that'll mean that's pretty steady, and I don't think that we need to push on unless that lap gets invalidated for some reason.
We might continue on and have a crack at the final few moments of qualifying, but it does look reasonably sedentary down through turn 1. I'll run out of turn 2. Yeah, I get the feeling he's not quite pushing on in that one. Oh, it definitely looks like he is still pressing on just a little bit. Sector 1 times just a touch down though. Yeah, so that might just be the end of the session for Carapong. Checkered flag now out. Two cars out there and circulating on the number 50 at Manuel Caceres and the 38 we just were looking at the moment. So that'll be qualifying done for them for the weekend. And the Carapong will take pole position from Damien Hamilton. Manuel Rafael Caceres out of P3 in the Nissan GTR. And Manuel Caceres will set the final lap time of that session. Chemya Dolmaz, no time entered, neither for the 37 entry that we were due to see in this category as well. So, worrying for Manat Kulpanot and Chemya Dolmaz. But we'll wait for this afternoon's racing action to see if we do see them back out there for the race. Coming our way, though, in just a few minutes' time. In fact, scheduled for pit lane exit to open at 11:50 p.m. local time. We'll be qualifying for GT3 GTM GT4. Sorry, that's 11:50 a.m. local time.
I was going to say, hold up a second there, Scott. If it's 11:50 p.m. track start, that's a good 12 hours from now. I don't think we're waiting around that long today to get to the next qualifying session.
But there'll be two 15-minute sessions. So session 1 will be run from 11:50 a.m. to 12:05 local time, and a 10-minute turnaround for session number 2. Primary drivers will get in for session number 2. Session 1 will be driven by the lower-rated drivers for the GT3, GTM, and GT4 categories. Of course, there's a few solo driver entries within that field as well, so they'll get to run both sessions, extra track time for them. Getting an update from race control as well, just about the circuit condition, and this is an important one. So this sort of explains, we did actually say earlier on that it was declared wet for the GTC qualifying. What they're specifying by that is, look, there was some rain in the area this morning, and we're just keeping the conditions sort of consistent across all classes or categories, just so, you know, we've got that open to us, is that they have declared this session wet as well, but you can't see any of the rain, and you can see the track is basically dry. Just a fraction on the left-hand side now becomes our right-hand side with that camera shot, just a couple of little darker areas for that one. You can see the GT3 cars already hurrying out to get out to the end of the lane. So it's just to make sure that everyone's prepared and ready, just in case if there is a dump of rain or anything goes on. Session has already been declared wet. They don't have to make that call halfway through.
Indeed. So that's one session down and 2 sessions left here for qualifying. It's for our morning's coverage here from the Sepang International Circuits. There are your 4 drivers who set qualifying times, with Akarapong on top from Damien Hamilton, Manuel Rafael Caceres, and Manasa Manuel Caceres. No time or presence of the 35 for Chemya Dolmaz, nor the 37 of Manat Kulapanot. So hopefully those 2 cars will be able to get out and race later on as well, because that would be pretty handy. So a couple of quick highlights from this 20 minutes of qualifying. We see here some of the outlaps from the very start of the session. Drivers coming out pretty close to each other in the form there of Rafael Caceres and Damien Hamilton. Therefore, they then had to space out and get to work on setting some of their best times that they could in this session. The GTR R35 would end up being good enough for 3rd on the timing sheets. Damien Hamilton would go 1 better to 2nd, Scott, in this Ford Trans Am V8 from the CRE Lanatech Lukimoli Racing team. But once again, Toyota Gazoo Racing Thailand and their Supras, or in this case singular Supra in qualifying, would be on top with Akarapong in the number 38, clear by just over 2 seconds at the end of the session, going on fastest lap times. And if the 2nd fastest lap time is also relevant for race 2 tomorrow, that'll mean he had about a 2nd or potentially even more in hand for that as well.
Just having a quick look as well, there is some rain circling around, which I think is probably the reason that Race Control have absolutely jumped through and gone, we're going to declare this session wet now. The rain is due in about the next 15-20 minutes. It'll be a short band, and it looks like the rain intensity will be low to low medium. We won't get to a medium sort of intensity by the look of things, and it's going to continue all the way through to about 1 p.m. which local time, that is just beyond the end of qualifying. So I think what you're going to see in this qualifying session is a lot of activity very, very early on in this session, because you're going to have to get that lap time in very early. And then the second half of qualifying is going to be, I think it's going to be the same thing, because the track's going to be a little bit drier to start if it does kick in, and then it might swing wet. And you can just see a little bit of cloud coverage, and I'm wondering whether or not that haze in the background is actually the rain coming down and over the mountains as well. So
that is a fair bet indeed there, Scott, because that does certainly look a little misty, not just fog per se.
That camera shot right there, to give you sort of an example, that's sort of looking, basically the start-finish straight that you're looking back up there is nearly due west from this angle. So it runs from effectively the westernmost point of the straight is all the way back at 15, running east all the way down the front straight. And the rain is coming from that direction. So that is the rain we're actually looking at.
All right, there you go. Confirmation. Thank you very much for that one there, Scott. So that will be interesting to keep an eye on here, because as you said, 2 15-minute qualifying sessions for Supercar GT3, GTM, and GT4. And, well, they are independent. They'll set the grid separately for races 7 and 8 of their championships. Race 7 later today in our second part of coverage this evening, or this afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. If it's this side of the world, at least. If you're over the other side of the world, say America or Europe, it'll be very early morning for you guys over there. If you say come join us from Europe, it'll be a little bit more of a pleasant late morning session. So that'll be there for you. But that'll be curious, because the qualifying 2, which will come up after Q1, is all about the grid for Sunday's race. So that'll be, separate, as you can see, GTM and GT4 cars getting prepared here in the garage. Specifically, of course, we are looking at the, pardon me, where is it? If I can find them on the list, it's at the AAS Motorsport garage. They've got their Porsche 992 Cup car, which will be driven by Mung Kong and Kimik Kanasuta this weekend in the number 17. And the number 18 are going to be shared by Vutakorn and Cantidi Kasiri. So that's interesting to watch there, because if I remember correctly, those two cars, or at least one of them perhaps, was a solo driver entry last time out, but they've now gone to a 2-driver lineup in both of those AAS Motorsport entries.
Yeah, I think that's crucial. More drivers in, more different approaches. Sometimes it's one of the better things you can do is get another driver in, give you some more information on driving that car, see if there's any way that you can actually improve across the weekend as well. Either way, I think it's going to be a little bit of a more difficult session, probably one of the more difficult ones we're going to see throughout the season as well. December, I'm not expecting there to be a whole host of weather, so this is going to be a unique opportunity. The other key thing is that although practice has now been run, yesterday's session, race session, was live for entries that made the previous round, and the key factor about that one is we haven't actually seen representative hot lapping sessions times from the Alabama Motorsport number 11 Aston Martin, which you can just sort of see back up down the pit lane at the moment. So this will be the first sort of really, really good opportunity to take a read on where that car stands in terms of the pace, because that now adds a second platinum driver to the grid in Earl Bamber, the Kiwi driver, who now owns and runs his own race team. An expansion of their duties, and I think this is all will be about getting more track time and laps over in the Asian region as well for that team, boosting them as much as they possibly can. He'll be sharing a car with Anderson Tenodo for the weekend, which, again, return for Marcus Winkelhock as well. Be Quick Absolute Racing has unfortunately had a few clashes this season in terms of being able to attend every round, so has unfortunately not been able to be here for every little part of it. And one of the key factors as well is when you have a look across the GT3 field throughout the season, there's actually been 23 entries throughout the season. Well, you know, some of those driver swaps for bits and pieces of the weekend, so that there has been a fair bit of swapping around. That's what we're looking at the moment in terms of your weather radar. You can see it's coming from the Sorry, I was apologies. I was saying that the front straighter was looking west to east. My apologies, I had it the wrong way around. It's coming from the east. So the easternmost portion of the circuit is down, of that straight is down at turn 15 and then runs west to, I completely, my brain just, basically took the two directions and flipped them around on me, which is good to see. But that rain is coming in from the northeast, and it looks like that band is going to hit from the east, and you can just sort of see it as it progresses. It's just sort of lingering around the area of that circuit. We may get some of it. Bands of more heavy intensity away to the north of Kuala Lumpur. Don't think we'll get any of that higher intensity stuff, but the track conditions to change as the session goes on. That's what you can see after 1 o'clock just clears up away to the east. So something that they're all dealing with. Going to be an interesting weekend, I think, because the racing yesterday was significantly later in the afternoon, and it's going to be the same thing again tonight. Racing in the evening in under the lights is going to be a unique opportunity for these guys as well.
It is, yeah. It is going to be rather late local time, which, is something we haven't seen a huge amount of in our coverage of the Thailand Super Series. Usually these guys wrap up around 5, 6 o'clock local time, whereas tonight, we're racing, GTC racing from 6:15 to 6:45 local time at the circuit, and it'll be 7:25 p.m. before the GT3 GTM GT4 1-hour race gets underway at the circuit, and therefore won't be done until about 8:30 local time as a result. So that'll be quite a different experience to see how the drivers, teams, and the cars all handle that around this track, and what we also get in terms of the situation. There's a 3-minute board going up there at pit exit, so we're not too far away in that case from kicking things off, as you can see here Toyota Gazoo Racing Thailand switching over from GTC preparation to GT4 preparation here with another Toyota Supra, although this one a bit more of a world recognized standard in terms of the GT4 spec car, whereas those GTC machines are very much unique. I don't think I've seen anything quite like them elsewhere racing around the world, Scott.
Yeah, but who cares? They're really cool race cars. They get to get out there. They get to turn laps in them. It's a win all around. Red flags now displayed at the end of pit lane, and we're going to see a flurry of activity as the bulk of the GT3 field already down there and looking to get their laps in early. And I get the feeling there is some concern about the rain in the area, which is going to trigger just this flurry of activity towards the start end of the session. Should be seeing that rain anytime from about 10 minutes from now if we're going to see it. And it'll continue on for the next half an hour after that. So anything could happen in terms of Thailand Super Series qualifying here for race 7 of the calendar. It's going to be the run to home. What do points look like in terms of things? Well, there's an update after yesterday as well, because the championship leader after race number 5 was the number 12 car of Piti Bhirombhakdi and Kantasak Kasiri in terms of your GT3 standings in the Team Singer Motorsport Thailand entry. Well, they won race number 6 yesterday, so that will extend their championship margin. The 91 car, driven by Chon Hua Chan and Jesse Crone, they've been having a phenomenal series. Their 3 registered race results thus far this season: a first, and a second. Second place coming from race number 1 of the season. And unfortunately for them, it was the 2 races at Bang Sen where they failed to score any points. DNF in race number 1 did not show back up for race number 2, so they had a worrying weekend. But Sepang was back to where they were previously. One of the other cars that's managed to win one of the races right throughout the series sits in tied 3rd place, so that'll be tied for 2nd in terms of standings is Sandy Stuvik and Yi Deng entry, the number 37 Be Quick Absolute Racing Audi. Also podium finishes for that car. Won the first race from Bang Sen and finished on the podium, so they had a very, very successful Bang Sen Grand Prix. 4th here a couple weeks ago in race number 5 at Sepang. So again, another car that's got pace, but this will all shuffle up as things sort of change around. And now the grid will start to feed in from the tail end, and pit lane exit has been open. Qualifying will now kick off, and there's going to be a little bit of figure it out, get yourself out there and find your rhythm, because I get the feeling this track is going to be very, very congested.
That's putting it mildly. Now, this opening session as well, don't forget, is for the lower graded drivers in all of the cars that have 2 driver pairings. They are the drivers who will also start race 1 later this evening. And then it will be our higher rated drivers. They do Q2 because they will start race 2 in tomorrow's coverage. So out goes the field, and timing screen, there is quite a few. I'm seeing 27 cars registering on timing for this weekend, and only a handful of them are yet to get out on the circuit, and 3 of them now. All that remain. I think that might just improve a little bit as this goes on. So here you go. They're all a little mixed up in the back half of the field. So GT4s, that's all fair and well, but you've got the GTM Lexus RCF there in the background. That's going to have to find its way to get some position on track to get a run, because it has a little bit more straight line speed and overall lap time than the GT4 cars. And indeed, as noted in our English YouTube chat, the Ford Mark Mustang makes a return for Craig Corliss and Jalen Robotham. It's been a little while since we've seen the Corliss Race Engineering number 8 machine out on circuit. Scott, it's been, unfortunately had quite the rough couple of weekends this year when it comes to reliability. So it's out here for qualifying to kick things off, at least on a Saturday. So fingers crossed that continues on in a good way.
Yeah, so we'll keep our eyes out. There's, at the moment, the only 2 cars that haven't left pit lane, or at least they don't have timing registered for, are the 2 Team AAI Motorsports BMWs. And the difficulty for that one was, we were talking championship standings just a few moments ago. Well, Junhua Chen and Jesse Krohn sit second in terms of the championship standings after race 5. Doesn't include race 6's points. So if they've had issues yesterday and things not necessarily working out for them thus far, well, that's going to cause an issue, because they're right in there with a shot at potentially winning a championship. So that'll be something that number 12 car certainly we want to be seeing. Team Singer Motorsport Thailand entry with Petey Biron Bakhtil behind the wheel for qualifying number 1. And the Honda NSX GT3.
They have headed out though.
They have now registered the sector. So that does solve that one. I wonder whether or not that was intentional, whether they were trying to get themselves away from the traffic.
I think it might just be, I mean, the GT3 cars for the most part have gone out at the front of the queue, and in many respects it seems they were released by their teams beforehand to make sure they were at the front of the queue to avoid that problem. But this maybe means either the guys at Team AI are just doing final preparations, and therefore we're going to be behind this GTM GT4 traffic, and thought, you know what, let's just wait 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and then we can... only problem there is you'll catch them up during the qualifying session if you do repeated flying lap runs, or especially so if cars here amongst this group here start backing off and therefore have to reset and go again. So around they come, past Sector 1, which is actually, I believe, on the run between turns 3 and 4. So they'll then hit up the run towards Sochi. Yeah, having a look, so Sector 1 timing beacon is actually basically on the apex of turn 3. Sector 2 timing marker is between turns 6 and 7. So right about there, I'd say, for our GT4 cars here on screen. They've just crossed the Sector 2 timing beacon. Sector 3 is a long one. It runs all the way to the exit of turn 12. I refuse to take any responsibility for what I said earlier, Scott.
No, you're going to have to take responsibility. As a commentator, there are going to be times where you say, oh, that car looks in good position, and indeed it did. And indeed it's back down into the lane. The number 8 Mark Mustang by Ford Corliss Racing Engineering, Lanatech Liquimoli, is backed into the pit lane. And 5 minutes already through in terms of the session. We're starting to see some of those lap times get representative as the tyres are now up to temperature. And lap number 2 for a number of these drivers start on the board now. 2:06.768 goes to the top of the timing sheets for Akash Nandi. will be partnering alongside of Esh and Pieris. That car has had some success this season, not just in Thailand Super Series, but also in their other racing commitments. It's been good to watch. There's some fighting in the background there as the Mercedes is going to go the long way around the Aston Martin GT4. And a little bit of squabbling for track position. So between these two guys at the front in GT4, 18 and the 59. Well, I can tell you that Andrew behind the wheel of the 59 car is certainly set a 220. Well, the 18 set a 221.8. So 1.8 seconds a lap faster, looking to really try and clear things. I think that might have been Ash and Pieris actually in the background at the moment that we're looking at. Down there, they've had a very, very successful season. Not just in in TSS coverage, but also in their own personal commitments as well.
It was weekend of GT World Challenge Asia, which unfortunately clashed with the Bang Seng Grand Prix weekend, which saw a couple of the drivers from the Big Wig Absolute Racing stables head across to race with, well, Absolute Racing there in that category. As let's see here for Akash Nani, can he get past the number 19? Yep. And actually not too much of a disruption to that lap there, I'd say. Able to stay mostly near the racing line into turn 15 and then power out the other side. And actually gets a little bit of dust for his troubles on the exit of the very last turn. As to the line he will come, and it's going to be a 2:06.0, so picks up 0.7 of a second on his own personal best. In behind, though, he needed that because Sandy Stuvik, fastest first and final sectors in the win here by BQAR Audi R8 GT3. So there's now just over 0.2 of a second separating first and second. In fact, it's a 0.234 second margin to be precise. They've got a bit of a healthy gap back to the next couple of cars in GT3 at the moment. As we watch them all here rounding the circuit. Now, interesting to note, there's actually been a looking at that there. A bit of an update. The Meng model sponsored Be Quick Absolute Racing Audi R8. We just saw it flash through the front of screen whilst we were focusing here on Sandy Stuvik. It's the red and black Audi, Scott. That has run under the number 27 most of the season. It is now actually running under 25A for this weekend. Now that A is needed because we also have a number 25 entered in TSS Supercar GTM, and so they run 25B here at Sepang for this sort of mashup weekend. So actually curious to note there, because it means we're also seeing a bit of driver shuffling, it seems, amongst the Big Quick Absolute Racing stables this weekend. Notably, Henk Kicks is racing once again, but he's got Marcus Winkelhock for a co-driver in the 27. So that'll be one to watch out for as to how that pairing can go in the racing action we'll see today and tomorrow.
I just wonder whether or not that 27 car had a different driver out the last couple of rounds, and whether or not they just weren't available this weekend, and Hank's just going, yep, sweet, I'm available, I can step back into that car with Marcus Winkelhock is effectively what I think is going on there. Either way, Sandy Stuvik, this car was incredibly quick, has already picked up race wins as well in other categories thus far this year. So Deng's having a phenomenal year in terms of his GT3 racing action. And Audis run the final corner. Can Sandy Stuvik find a little bit more time? Sector time's not an improvement thus far. No green sectors on the lap to improve. I wonder whether or not there might have been some traffic clearing, and this might be his flying lap. Doug Koo in the background in that Mercedes. Remember, he was in the Aston Martin Vantage GT3 last year. Made the move over to the Mercedes AMG this year. I believe there was some adjustment there for him over the last couple of rounds. Gets an opportunity now to put some lap time in that Audi, in the Mercedes.
Except it's not him in race number 1, Scott.
Oh, he's got a driving partner for this weekend.
I'll point you to the timing screens. His Highness Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim joining the Viper Ninja Racing stable and the number 65 Mercedes. So according to what we're seeing on timing, just double confirm that on the entry list as well for you folks. Actually, no, apologies. It is Douglas Scooby Racing and qualifying the car currently. But yes, His Highness Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim will be in the car for this weekend, and it will be in the car for qualifying too. So that's that is a change for the Viper Ninja Racing stable, because that's a car we've usually seen Douglas race solo. Has raced it solo so far this year. But yeah, we'll be curious to see how that goes there. As noting, also an update from Race Control, there's been several laps deleted for track limits. So just actually probably bring our attention or bring your attention to them here. So in fact, actually, they're coming through thick and fast here, Scott. So now we've got car 89 had a lap deleted, unknown if that was, well, based on the timing it came, that would have been their first lap.
Yep.
Car 25A here on screen had a lap deleted for track limits, then car 27 had their first lap deleted, car 17 their second lap deleted, car 89 their third lap deleted, and now car 62, Akash Nandi, current pole sitter, his fourth lap deleted for exceeding track limits. So they're all finding it all over the place, and add another one to the list, the number 11 of Anderson Tenoto, currently behind the wheel of the Earl Bamber Motorsport Aston Martin. His fourth lap has just been deleted for track limits as well.
A reasonable start for that car, bringing themselves sort of in contention at the moment. Sitting in 6th overall, 4th in class for the GT3 Pro-Am category as well. So expecting a second session. We'll keep half an eye on our time. So currently 2:06.0, fastest lap time at the moment. Akash Nandi, Malaysian driver. That is the Ferrari 488 Challenge car out of your GTM standings. And that is the lead car in GTM. What's going on here for the 25A? Just a little bit of a dust picked up for Hank Kicks out of the final corner. Not too bad of a run onto the main straight, though. A little bit of dust on that tyre. This is the Chunhua Chen. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, Chunhua Chen. Yeah, correct. Sits in 7th spot at the moment. That's deep at turn 1, though, unfortunately. And Jesse Crone will get into this car. Sits 2nd in the championship at the moment. Will be an opportunity for this car to move its way through the standings yet again.
Yeah, it will indeed. So, looking here at the timing sheets, everything has now shaken out pretty evenly for all of the cars that are racing. So our GT3 cars now taking up the top 11 spots, in the order. Then our GTM cars is up. That's a moment there for Anderson Tenoto in the EBM Aston Martin. Thankfully, finds a gap, gets that going again. Now, can we figure out where that is on the circuit? Or better yet, can I find him on the timing? I've got that car heading up towards, I've just gone through turn 12 actually, so that might be at turn 11 there. The cars come around, which is an interesting spot to go around. It's, well, it is a greater than 90-degree corner, but usually not too deceptive there.
I think actually, Dan, I think that might have been the run between turn 7 and turn 8, actually.
That also makes sense. Yeah, no, yeah, okay. I'll take back what I said. As cars coming into the pit lane now, and I believe that'll be drivers saying that, yeah, that's as good as I can do here in Q1. Now, actually, in saying that, entry list says Douglas Koo should be qualifying the Viper Nizza Racing entry, but as you can see, our overlays and broadcast information here on our screens do suggest it's His Highness Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim in that car at the moment. And also given the performance of that car, only 1.4 seconds, not even, in fact 1.3 seconds off the current pole time, might suggest that's the case, because not to drag on Douglas too much in saying this, Scott, but Douglas hasn't been a super competitive driver in terms of his outright pace in qualifying sessions so far this season. So maybe the entry list document I've got is the other way around to how that...
From yesterday's race for Douglas Cooter, just as a reference, is a 2:11. So that's from race number 6. So that says to me that would be Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim behind the wheel of that car.
All right, well, 40 seconds left in the session. Looks like we've got ourselves a couple of cars yet still out on track looking to do final improvements. Although this year, currently your GT4 pole sitter for Ahmed Harris Jeffrey and Mohammed Nakib, who will be sharing this car for Wing Hin Motorsports. We usually see Nakib racing in the Thailand Super Compact in a Toyota Yaris. So good to see him getting some time in GT4 category as well, and also therefore a chance to come race here at Sepang, which, if I understand correctly, is one of his home circuits, being one of our drivers from Malaysia racing in the Thailand Super Series. As time has hit 0, checkered flag is out at the start-finish line. Although it looks like that the 39 has just dived to the pit lane. Has indeed. So no improvement for Amir. We'll have to stay P1 at this time in the session, but it's tight there. It's got just over 1/10 of a second in hand for pole position in the GT4 class.
Yeah, it's a reasonably good session for a number of the drivers up and down the field as well. GTM standings is going to go the way of that Ferrari 488 Challenge car, the 25B Sigma Motorsport Team Thailand entry from AAS Motorsport. Togazu Racing Team Thailand's Nadavude will take out third position from that category, and Simon Chan, the Fire Monkey Motorsports Porsche 992 car. They're in contention. The Craig Corliss a very representative lap time as well, so they've managed to find some speed and finally get the most out of that Mark Mustang as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when they get Jalen Robotham behind the wheel. Difficulty for this session as well, a little bit of a longer turnaround time. The reason why you're seeing all these cars peel off into the lane before the end of qualifying, 10-minute turnaround to get the cars re-prepped, add some more fuel back to the mix, get a driver swap done, and get everything sort of turned around, double check the cars all ready to go. So that's why they peel in just a few moments before the end of the session. And feed in confirmation of final results as well. Akash Nandi set the fastest lap from qualifying 1. You'll hand over to Ashen Pierres to see what he can do from qualifying number 2. Be Quick Absolute Racing take the top 3 spots. Sandy Stuvik, Yi Dang. Sandy Stuvik behind the wheel, 2:06.321. Very quick lap time for them. They were incredibly aggressive early on in the season, made some contact all the way back at Chang. And third place from Huang Rohan in the 25A entry as well. GCM was pole position to Team Singer Motorsports Team Thailand. Kitapole takes that one from Mungkong, and the AAS Motorsports Porsche Togazu Racing's Team Thailand Sadavude from Simon Chen, Fire Monkey Motorsports. Craig Corliss in the Mark Mustang, rounding out, I believe, the top 5 for that category. And then GT4 standings as well. Amma Harris Jeffrey takes pole position by just a bit more than 1/10 of a second. How close the times are across the top 3 here. Nanan Indra Payung and Vudakorn are going to take out your top 3. Peter Hackett manages to put it on P number 4. Hayden Haikal, remember, it'd be very, very quick in that car. Good to see him getting some upgraded opportunities. This year, Malaysian home driver at the moment will get the car for session number 2. And yes, for the confirmation for the few of you who are just tuning in for qualifying now, that is qualifying for this afternoon's race. And this was the highlights of the session as well. Pit lane was chock-a-block. 27 cars set a lap time from that session. So the opening stanza of it was all about finding a little bit of a hole to get your lap time in. And don't forget, weather circling in the area around Sepang as well. Setting a lap time and setting a good lap time early on was going to be the big old key to the amateur driver session. Qualifying now in the books. What's it going to look like, though, when we get on to session number 2? Marcus Winkelhock, Earl Bamber, Jesse Crone all going to go toe-to-toe. And then don't forget about Carlo Van Dam as well. Your top 4 rated drivers from the field are going to set the track alight in a few moments' time. The spin from the co-driver of the Earl Bamber Motorsports, number 11, Aston Martin, down at turn 7, turn 8. And that was Anderson Tenodo. So then pit lane became busy because it was time to flick back over to higher rated drivers session. And the other entry as well, which will have another gold rated driver. There is actually a few of them in attendance here this weekend. I'm counting 4 as I currently stand of it. Jasmine Jafar will be the Malaysian driver behind the wheel of the number 90 BMW for Team AAI in this session as well. So it's about to let them loose for the second half of qualifying. 10-minute turnaround time. We're about halfway through that at the moment, but I really want to keep half an eye on that Earl Bamber Motorsports car. You know how much of a fan of an Aston Martin I am, Dan.
Oh, I mean, the fact, yes, I mean, we got to see an older spec car last year, as I said, with Douglas Cooper Viper Racing. But yeah, now getting a brand new Evo 2 specification car, and also the fact that we haven't seen Earl Bamber Motorsport, if I remember correctly, since we started coverage here at the Thailand Super Series. So a new team joining the field, at a team that has got a lot of pedigree that we like to see. That's for sure. And yeah, be fingers crossed, because here is Aston Martin GT4 of Team NZ. Speaking of which, as they pull back into their pit box there, new this year, but has done races already so far. But it's add the Vantage Evo GT3 to the field, or Evo 2, sorry, to the field. So that is definitely going to be one to watch out for, and hopefully, Earl able to deliver a strong result for EBM in this second Q session. I mean, say Anderson Sonoto, P6 outright, and fourth of the GT3 Pro-Am team entries. Certainly no slouch of a time there. So just be curious to see how Earl goes relative to our Q2 field, given, as you said, FIA Platinum rated, so maybe a little bit of pressure on him to deliver a strong result, given that I believe he is one of 2 or 3 FIA Platinum rated in the field. Marcus Winkelhock is the second. In fact, that's it, yeah. Himself and Marcus are the only 2 FIA Platinum rated drivers in the field. As you said, there are other drivers like Carlo Van Dam, Jasmine Jafar, and Jesse Cronwell, FIA Gold rated. Just as an example of, as you said, the competition and drivers that we're going to see here in this second session.
Important to note, I was just flicking through the point standings as well for GT4 categories for this year. The 26 car actually had Henk Kicks behind the wheel, partnering Erwin de Smet. Well, Henk Kicks we just saw in the GT3, the Audi. From that session, we're partnering Marcus Winkelhock this weekend. They've actually had to have another driver step in to Henk's shoes this weekend. So Sathapon Virachur, Thai driver, will get behind the wheel of, I believe he just did that qualifying session, the Porsche Cayman GT4 for Be Quick Absolute Racing. So yeah, I did know that Hank had stepped back to the GT4. I just was digging through the results and having a look at that one. They're going to form up now at the pit lane exit. There's about 3 minutes left before this server will go. So this session will go live. And you can see the GT3 cars. I think they're doing this intentionally, trying to get the GT3s towards the end of the pit lane, and then everyone else will feed in behind them. But yeah, I'd be looking for a little bit of clear air early on in this session, particularly for the pro drivers now. Everyone trying to stay cool. More importantly, how far away is that weather? Are we going to see a few spots of rain on the windscreens of these cars? Is that going to change this session up?
That will be the million-dollar question, Scott. I will admit that watching the radar we saw there, the way that rain sort of held around for a bit, but then it sort of disappeared away from the circuit, definitely question marks there as to how exactly it'll go. Makes it a little interesting, to say the least, in my mind, as to exactly how we'll make things play there. Because yeah, it could continue towards the circuit. It could fall on us here, or it could just dissipate and fade away. That is the other possibility there, indeed. So, a couple of GT3s, as I said, out at the end of pit lane. As actually, here's the radar once again, and unfortunately, I don't see the time scale at the bottom of the screen. But just the way, it's almost as if it's threatened, and it's deciding to give us a bit of a reprise. You can see the rain sort of more up around Putrajaya for a bit than Kuala Lumpur, but then it seems to really back away from the region for a while, it would appear. So we might be spared. Here, as looks like we're not too far away from getting our green flag here for qualifying 2. Given that our marshal here has stepped to the inside of the pit exit line, as also noting their team AAI are having a close look at some stuff here in the well, actually, this is more of our cameraman. So there you go. Have a look at Race Logic data logger, as well as some of the other systems there in the passenger side of the car to assist, and then some copious air ducting to help keep things a little more orderly inside this car.
And they're talking across now. They've just fired that car up. I think that's what's just happened there. So it'll be Jasmine Jafar He'll be behind the wheel of this car now. Getting himself set up, and that's what it takes to put together a GT3 entry. Wires running absolutely everywhere for data loggers, trackers. Green flag from the front end of pit lane is going to see Marcus Winkelhock be the first driver to feed on out onto the racing circuit. 89 entry. It's Carlo Van Dam behind the wheel of the white and blue liveried Team Stinger Thailand Honda NSX. So if you looking to find some time for that one, Cantus Kasiri was in the yellow accented NSX, which was just in behind. So about half the field have already fed out of the lane. There's a few more that are looking for just that little bit of breathing room out on track.
Yeah, it's just curious to watch here because he said there's a flurry of initial activity, and now we watch to see just a couple of cars choose to wait it out a bit. And well, she's not more than a couple, because as the camera pans back here, we'll see there's still a good couple, maybe even half a dozen drivers in the pits there, whereas everyone else, here they are, out together on track. We've got a couple of GTMs there, thankfully ahead of that quartet of GT4s, so they'll be able to pull some margin and not interrupt each other. But these guys here, they're going to have to all space out a bit too, if they want to make sure they've got room to be able to push on their first flying laps or so without tripping over each other, which will always be a little part of the test here in this combined GT3 GTM GT4 weekend.
Yep, giving yourself a little bit of room to set that lap time. Right, who's got everything wound up? Who's got the lap put together? Who's got the tyres in the right condition? It's not going to be lap number 2. It'll be the fastest laps of the session, but it could be close to representative. Now we watch and we wait as they wind their way around this lap. I can tell you, Marcus Winkelhock is just coming out of the final corner at the moment, so they're on the run of the start-finish line to start their flying laps. And as is Lin Hao behind the wheel of the 25 car as well. It's the runoff of turn 14. Down the back straight, and then they'll flick around onto the front straight. Very, very tricky corner, the final corner, as well as everyone involved in copious amounts of tyre warming at the moment. Yeah, you can just see from this group of cars as well, this won't be the valid lap time that they're looking for. Still trying to prepare the tyre.
I mean, yeah, don't forget, Scott, they're all sitting around in pit lane for a good 4 or 5 minutes. No tyre blankets once those tyres were fitted, and would think there might not even tyre blankets at all here in the Thailand Super Series. So yeah, the Hankook Ventus F200 certainly going to need a bit of extra care and attention from the drivers to bring it up to prime conditions. So you can see here already now in Sector 2 for drivers like Yi Deng here in the number 37 win here by BQAR Audi. Already starting to look pretty pacey there. Just might be looking for a little bit more to come on the second, third, maybe even fourth laps as well. So how about that? There you go. Traffic a bit up ahead there. The 62, which has got Eshan Pierce behind the wheel, actually going past Lin Hao in the number 25 sister car from the Big Quick Absolute Racing stables. Well, see, looks like we might be focusing on Yi Deng here to the end of the lap in the 37, Scott, and we'll keep an eye on that time as we come through to the end of this lap.
Yep, be an opportunity here for Yi Deng. Start to put this lap together. Sector times are okay, not brilliant, but they are okay. He's definitely lost some time with the overtake for track position. He's going to jump out of the way again. He recognises that that lap needs to be aborted. An extra lap worth of preparations will set him really well up. First lap time is going to start to come through. Reminder, last session 2:06.0 was your fastest time. And already Marcus Winkelhock to the top of the table, 2:06.156. So even though the tyre's not 100% up to pressure and temperature at this point in time, very, very quick lap on colder tyres for Winkelhock at the moment. Now he's going to have to put the foot down and try and find some time. 37 entry now comes across the line. 224, so absolutely a back off lap, preparation lap for the tyre on that one for Yi Deng. And Ashen Pieris now goes ahead and sets the purple first sector, so he's on the move, about 2/10 up in sector number 1 as it currently stands. So he is really trying to get the foot down and apply some pressure. Confirmation thus far of this is what the top times look like. See, the NSX is still not 100% on the limit as it stands.
Apologies there, Scott. I had a moment where my prod feed froze up. That's an issue on my end, so I'm back with you now watching the number 12 here, rounding turns 7 and 8. See if I can lift themselves up the order. At the moment, though, it looks like things are a bit jumbled up with cars. Still, particularly in our GT3 field, bringing themselves up to speed because we'll look to see them all finish in the top 11 positions as updates coming through. So our 4 cars had lap times deleted on lap 1, which was the out lap for track limits. But critically, the 25A machine of Lynn Howes had their second lap time deleted. Now, in saying they've just gone and set their third lap, which was an improvement. So, thankfully, that will not worry them too much unless they have lap time deleted. And also, Candace Axe just had his second lap deleted in the session. So, number 12 of a 2:14.4, which was a warm-up lap, but now off the chart, off the table. We'll have to bring it round here and improve. Although certainly was a banker to get started. So let's see here. Looking to see where this car will end up as we come to the line. 205.887 will slot into second place. So that was a good sign there. Just in behind Mark also Audi, the Audi Honda battle and the Big Wig Absolute Racing versus Singer Motorsport Team Thailand rivalry. It looks like it is well and truly alive once again here at Sepang, even if it is only Q2 for the weekend.
Yep, so now they've got a little bit more work to do, but not much, given that it's less than 1/10 of a second. It's less than half a 1/10 of a second even as well. So a little bit of traffic now to start to navigate for these guys. Yi Deng's representative lap time right there and thereabouts as well. Ashen Pieris 4th and Carlo Van Dam in 5th. And have a look at them, between 1.5 of a second covers 3rd to 5th as well. So they're all incredibly close together. Number 5 car, new entry to the series as well in GT3. Also setting quite good lap times. Another of the Audi R8s by Absolute Racing, which you don't expect to be seeing more of the Audi R8s coming out, given that they've stopped crawling off the production line, but somehow Absolute, Be Quick Absolute Racing, seem to continue to find more Audi R8s somewhere.
We might have to get that clarified later today, but I'm actually thinking possibility. You've got the Big Wig Absolute Racing cars sitting 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 8th outright in GT. Well, 8th outright full stop. But they also, I'm thinking that number 5 Audi, because it is registered as HZO Fortis Racing Team by Absolute Racing, might, whether they're running in partnership with the Big Wig Absolute cars, or whether that is actually going to be a separate entry, given the different sponsors there on that one. I'll get that one clarified. As to the line comes Lin Hao, and we'll go and do, I believe, if I just find where they are on the timing tracker, into turn 2. Looks like they've just gone to 2.9.
That lap?
Indeed it was, yes. Okay, backed off there, so no improvement on that one just yet. Lap time deletion still coming in. So, didn't talk about car 89, Carlo Van Dam having his second lap deleted. But for the 37 of Yi Deng, unfortunately, has had second lap deleted and now third lap deleted as well. So, Deng struggling to get a competitive time on the board, it seems. In fact, his only time that's currently been recorded for now is a 2:19.6. which I don't think adds up quite right, because according to that, that would put him up above several of the GT4s, but is scored dead last out of everyone on circuit right now.
So I wonder whether or not that's got some time deletions for that car as well, potentially. Either way, continuing on, fastest of the GTM cars at the moment is actually the 77 car, which is, I believe, the Lamborghini that's out there in this session. PSC Motorsport entry, the Singer Motorsport Team Silent car 25B that we're looking at, Ferrari 488 Challenge at the moment sits second, and there is again another less than a tenth of a second difference between those two cars. Third place in this class at the moment is Jalen Robotham with 2:10.6, so he's effectively a second off the pace of these guys up ahead of him, so still relatively close, still getting some more time in behind the wheel of that car. Would just be a learning experience. Jasmine Jafar has set reasonable lap times. All the way down to our top 7 are in the 206s and covered by 2.5 tenths of a second is 5 cars, now 6 cars from 3rd to 8th. So lap time is incredibly close together. And you'll throw it back to Yi Deng. And remember, Deng's had a few laps that have been deleted there as well. Just set a representative 207.254. I wonder whether or not there might have been a back off to re-prep those tyres, because they have taken some life out of them for Yi Deng.
Yeah, his 4th lap got deleted for track limits as well. So finally, on his 5th lap in the session of 207.2, appears to have finally gotten one that at this time will count. Lin Howes had his 4th lap in the session deleted for track limits in the 25A, so still sits second in class and 10th outright. Now the only car that's out of position in GT3, it seems, is indeed the Viper Ninja Racing 65 Mercedes, so that would suggest indeed Douglas Koo back behind the wheel of that one again. Currently sits on a 209.8, which is again only 8 tenths off of Lin Howes' time, but it's enough for, as you said, the PSC Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo and the Singer Motorsport Team Thailand's Ferrari 488 Challenge to slip into the middle there with their 700th of a second difference between those cars. But time running out, and cars starting to come into the pit lane to wrap up their sessions by the looks of things. Well, all that's been happening. Didn't actually really pick it up, but Earl Bamber slipping the Aston Martin Vantage to 3rd place. So that's good to see here. As Douglas Koo, we're looking at on screen right now, has a personal best in Sector 3, as he's just gone through that timing beam. So let's see if he can improve. Maybe jump ahead of the GTM cars to end the session.
Yeah, keeping half an eye on the old Bamber car as well. Looks reasonably quick through the first 2 sectors at the moment, so there could be another lap time coming through from that car as well before the session is out. And Koo out of the final corner on the run to the line. Is going to find some time here. And indeed, he finds it so that he is 4 thousandths of a second behind the 25B Ferrari 488 Challenge car. The Singer Motorsport Team Thailand, driven by Superkit in this session. So finding some more pace. Douglas Koo, great opportunity. This car as well, Nakib still running around at the tail end of the session. Track's starting to really thin out. There's about 8 to 10 cars still left on track at this point in time, so still some opportunities for a few drivers to improve. The time now starting to elapse, and indeed if they start one more flying lap, that will be it. For a lot of these cars, they will get the checkered flag here at the tail end of this lap.
That there was pushing the track limits and then some for the 39. Wing Motorsports car, as it looks like Yi Deng 207.254 is the best he can do here, and has certainly backed off there. So it'll be 8th place outright, and looks like he's one of 3 remaining GT3s still on track. As there we are, time has indeed reached 0. The checkered flag is out at the start-finish line. So we wait to see, is anyone going to try and finish a lap here and gain some time for Mohammed Akib. He will commit to finishing the lap in the number 39. Can he improve as we come to the finish? It's going to be a 2:16.3. Unfortunately, that's not an improvement on his time that he already has at 2:16.283. So we'll stay 22nd outright and 4th in the GT4 category there, Scott. And I believe there's only a handful of cars left to come around, including, I think, also 65 Mercedes and also the 37 Audi. But it looks like Yideng is heading straight for the pits. So therefore won't need to cross the line to wrap the session up.
Do you remember all the chatter about pit lane entries? I wonder if there's going to be some more issues with pit lane entries here this afternoon, because we had seen a few last time out a couple of weeks back from Chang International Race where cars just dipping tires either side of the white line at pit lane entry. On Sepang, she shoots all the way off to the right hand side, and it does sort of feed off basically where the racing line is, and then you sort of let the car track back out again. So it'll be something to keep an eye on for tonight's race as well. And session now in the books. So pole position for race number 8 is going to be, they've grabbed, I think, both of them from the weekend here as well. Kantasak Kasiri puts the number 12 Honda NSX GT3 to pole position by 45 thousandths of a second over Marcus Winkelhock. Will be on the outside of row number 1. Row number 2 will be Earl Bamba, found some time later on in the session from Jesse Crone. And then we'll drop back to Eshan Pieris and Jasmine Jafar. Row number 3, Yi Deng from Aaron Lim, Douglas Koo and Carlo Van Dam. That's not a representative lap time from that one. So they've had an issue with the second on the Honda NSXs. Final car on the grid would be Lin Hao, also not representative for the 25A car as well. Will be from the rear end of the field tomorrow afternoon. GTM category. Afik Yazid from Superkit, Jalen Robotham in P3, Kamik Kanasuda, Nadavude, Nadapong, and Saiwai Simon Chen home in the Fire Monkey. Porsche was laid out of the pit lane in that session too. And finally, GT4 qualifying, Kazuhisha from Kantadi Kasiri, Hayden Haikal does a great job on home soil, Nakib from Ananthorn, Warren, Grant Superfong, Erwin DeSmit, and Kachorn round out your GT4 standings as well. And qualifying number 8 highlights will be coming our way, I believe, here in just a few moments here, Dan. Indeed, there it is.
Yeah, so fun little, busy little outlap for many of our driving teams. They're getting the cars in their sort of relative classes somewhat organised and then spread out on track. And to be honest, I didn't quite see this coming from Kantasak Kasiri. Actually missed him go there 4/100ths of a second faster. Or as I said, 45 1,000 of a second faster than Marcus Winkelhock. That's happened later in the session, but it is going to be, therefore, an exciting race, I would have to say. I mean, the times are looking pretty tight from our top GT3 teams, so we could have, by lots of things, upwards of 5 or 6 drivers and teams in with a shot of winning that second race on Sunday. And that also means that race 1 later today will be fun to watch out for as well. The 25A car there on the screen, actually, they had an absolute disaster officially on timing. They're scored way down the order, so that will hurt their start on Sunday. So that'll be something to watch out for as well. Pole position there in GT3 and the subcategory goes to number 5, HZO Fortress Racing Team, Absolute Racing machine, and they're racing up against the Viper Nizza 65 Mercedes and that number 25A Audi. So those 3 cars in a GT3 subcategory of their own. At the end of the day, as you said, it's the number 12 taking outright pole, the 77 taking GTM pole, also the Pro-Am subcategory in GTM Am. It's Nadavude in the number 24. They're racing against Simon Chan in the number 10. and then the 58 of Kazuhisha Arabe and Indra Pyong. And for 2W Zoomies in GT4 Pro-Am and GT4 Am goes to Brakun and Warren in the number 95. Also from 2W Zoomies, there's a whole bunch of subdivisions on our timing screen that we can play around with. But Scott, that's going to wrap up coverage from this morning at Sepang. We have ourselves about 5 hours, or just under 5.5 hours until we return for racing action later on today. We're starting with TSS Supercar GTC. 6 p.m. local time in Malaysia, which is 5 p.m. for Thailand and 8 p.m. for us on the east coast of Australia. We'll be back with pre-race preparations before the green flag drops for TSS Supercar GTC at 6:15 local time, so 15 minutes after we go live. Or I think it's a 12-lap sprint around here. Otherwise, it's 30 minutes time certain if we need to go that distance. So, final words from qualifying, Scott, before we close up for this morning's coverage?
Interesting session. I think the race this afternoon is going to be phenomenal, particularly under lights as well. It's just going to be an awesome old time. So, ladies and gentlemen, Thailand Super Series coverage will return in a number of hours. We'll see you all tonight as we get set for race number 5 for your GTC and race number 7 for your GTM, GT3 and GT4 racing categories. We'll see you all soon as we go racing once again for Thailand Super Series.